Hi, this is Kevin Tony, the marketing coach. If you're listening to this CD, it probably means you're a kind of small business owner or sales professional that's looking to increase your sales and grow your business. This is a 30-minute presentation on how to have your best sales year ever. So I hope you enjoy it, and then stay tuned at the end for a special offer. Thanks. Bye for now.
Business Trends Radio with your host, Anita Campbell.
We're about to go into a new year, and it's always good to enter the year knowing the plan for your business and how you're going to achieve it. Sometimes, though, the thought of creating a sales plan can be absolutely daunting. Where do you start? Even more intimidating for me is, how do you go about achieving that sales plan? Well, today's guest has a tried and true system for helping a business of any size create and achieve a sales plan and make their sales year the best ever. My guest, Warren Greshus, is a professional speaker, author, and talk show host. As an expert in sales, success, and customer service, Warren has delivered keynote speeches at corporate and association events throughout the world for over 20 years. In addition, he is the author of The Best Damn Sales Book Ever, 16 Rock-Solid Rules to Achieving Sales Success. And Warren hosts his own talk show and podcast called The Warren Greshus Show, your voice for sales, success, and small business. Well, welcome to the show, Warren. I'm so glad to have you back. We did a show on creating a sales plan last year around this time, didn't we?
Yes, we did. That was more for, I think, the individual, actually, but this is for the company and business itself.
Well, that's great. I'm very much looking forward to today. Well, Warren, I want to ask you what seems like it might be an obvious question, but I think it's an important one. Do most businesses have a sales plan? Now, I'm not asking if they should have a sales plan, but if they actually have a sales plan.
Well, that's not such a simple yes and no question. You know, many of them do, but I think it breaks down three ways. A lot of them don't. Many of them do. They have a lousy one, though. And I'd say the minority, yes, have a good sales plan. I think more than too many businesses don't have a really good, effective sales plan. More than too many businesses have a plan which is just, it's kind of slapped together out of the air. It really looks more like a wish list than a plan, and it's not very well thought out. And the vast minority of companies do have a good sales plan. So it really is something that is critical and really needs to be done.
Well, how would you describe the difference between a business that has an effective sales plan and actually has put into place what it takes to achieve that plan, and one that either has a bad plan or doesn't execute on it, or for whatever reason isn't pursuing a good sales plan? What's the real difference in end results?
The difference is the one company is going to be successful, and the other one's got a real good shot at putting a padlock on the door.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Well, don't hold back on us, Warren.
No. I want to be as subtle as I can about it.
Okay.
Hey, the Small Business Administration of the United States will tell you that the single biggest reason that small businesses fail is because they did not have a written business plan. Bingo.
And a sales plan is a big part of that business plan.
A huge plan, huge part of it. I mean, I think a lot of people go into business I wouldn't say the wrong reasons, but a lot of people that go into business because they had a certain expertise in something. And you know, they're really good at something, or they have a certain expertise, or they've developed this better mousetrap. But what they don't understand is that unless you get into selling, unless there's sales involved, then I don't care how smart you are or how much expertise you have or that you built a better mousetrap. And you know, the old saying is, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. Well, that's not true. Unless you're going out there and letting people know you exist and going out there and selling and have a plan for your sales effort, nothing's going to happen.
Well, Warren, let's jump in feet first and get to the nuts and bolts of this. Can you help break it down and make it achievable for all of us? What are the simple steps that we should be taking to create a sales plan?
Well, it is very simple. I've come up with a 5-step process for creating any kind of plan, and a sales plan falls right under that. I mean, the first thing you have to do is you have to come up, I believe in working backwards. Start off with your end result. Figure out where you want to end up. It makes it a lot easier to break it down. It makes it a lot easier to come, in other words, if you know where you want to end up, you have a real good shot of figuring out how to get there. But if you
now,
don't know
what does that mean?
Well, okay.
What does that mean to know where you want to end up specifically?
So the first thing you have to do, step one, is you have to see it. You have to see yourself successful. You have to visualize it. You have to focus. You have to create a picture of what you want your success to be. Got to focus and be able to describe it. All right, that brings us to step 2, which means you have to write it down. You have to set the goal, and we can obviously we'll get more into what that all means. You have to write it down, set that goal, really describe it on paper. Third step, obviously, you take that goal, that end result, and you formulate the plan. You formulate the roadmap. Once I know where I want to end up, now let me get out my roadmap. Let me get out a roadmap and really formulate a specific route to getting to that goal, which is the action plan. The fourth step, obviously, is to act on the plan. You have the plan. Now you got to take that first step. You got to start the action. You got to get the ball rolling. You got to actually do something. And the fifth step, which separates so many of the successful from the unsuccessful, is the ability to keep it going, is the perseverance. In other words, I call it sustain the effort, and just keep going out there day after day after day after day.
Oh, that's a key point, because I think most people would stop at number 4 and say, well, you just have to act on the plan.
Right.
But it's really keeping yourself going, keeping yourself committed to it that is over the long haul going to make the difference, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's very ironic you should say that, because I remember a long time ago now. I've been in my own business now for almost 21 years. And I remember, I hadn't been in business more than a couple of years. I was doing a series of symposiums for the phone company up in New England, and they were hosting small business symposiums 3 times a year. And so I was one of a group of many speakers speaking to these small business owners on different parts of the business process and business success. And I remember one of the other speakers on the program with me was a fellow who had been in business for quite a while at the time, and he came up to me and he said, after many, many years in business, I finally figured out the key to success as a business owner. And I said, what is it? He says, you just got to be able to hang in there.
Hang in there. I like that.
I mean, you got to be able to go out there day after, there's going to be days and there's going to be months and there's going to be years when it doesn't go exactly the way you want it to. But that ability to hang in there, that ability to keep going day after day after day after day is what does separate the successful from the unsuccessful.
Well, let's break these steps down, if you would, then,
Absolutely.
Warren. Let's start with, obviously, number 1.
Well, see yourself successful. It's simple. If you can see yourself successful, you can be successful. If you can see yourself doing something in your mind, then you got a real good shot to be able to do it in real life. I mean, let's face it. If you can't even see yourself or your company doing something in your mind, how can you possibly expect to be able to do that in reality? Let's face it, it's a lot easier to do this stuff in our dreams than in real life. So
now, I'd like to ask you just a follow-up question about that, Warren. Explain how you actually see this in your mind, because while we may be familiar with this, there may be others who aren't familiar with exactly how to do that. Are there 1 or 2 simple techniques you would suggest?
Well, yeah. I mean, I always suggest starting from where you are. You're formulating a sales plan. Where are your sales now? And start to visualize where you want your sales to be. I mean, you can visualize it by customers. You can visualize it by dollars. You can visualize it by however you want. How you can visualize it by product. You can visualize however you want. But you've got to be able to create some sort of a picture in your mind of where you see your company, even if it means seeing a certain amount of production or seeing a certain amount of staffing. You've got to be able to create a vision for your company. I mean, let's face it. If you can't create a vision for yourself, if you can't create a vision for your company, how can you possibly be able to expect yourself to be able to create a vision for your customers or your clients? I mean, because that's what most people do when they sell. I am a professional speaker. I sell my services to large corporations as a keynote speaker. And I've got to create a vision for them of someone who can help them to increase their business, of someone who can help them to overcome the roadblocks or obstacles that their sales force faces. I mean, so if I can't even begin to create that for myself and my own company, how am I going to be able to create that for my clients? I mean, if you have a business where you're selling, I don't know, you're selling life insurance, you have an agency. Are you creating a vision for your clients of financial independence, of financial security for their family in the future? So, but if you couldn't create a vision for your agency and where you want that agency to be in 5, 10 years, or in a year, or in 2 years, how are you going to do it for your clients? So
okay. So we've got about 20 seconds left before going to break. So essentially then on this first point, you're really saying you've got to imagine how many customers you would want to have, or how much revenue you would want to have for the year, or specific things like that.
Right. Right. In other words, you want to create as clear a picture as you can. You want to focus in on that picture so clearly until you can literally describe it right down to its most minute details, and then we're ready for the next step.
Well, stay with us for more with Warren Grecius. We're talking about how to create your sales plan and have the highest sales.
Talk to me.
Welcome back to Small Business Trends Radio with your host, Anita Campbell.
My guest today is Warren Grecius, who is a sales coach and professional extraordinaire. And we're talking about how to have the highest sales year ever in your business. Now, Warren, before the break, you described for us the first step in creating your sales plan, which is essentially to visualize what you want to have happen. What is the next step then? Walk us through that in detail.
Okay, well, the next step is to take that, as I said just before the break, you visualize what you want. You create a picture of what you want your success to be. You focus in on the picture until you can describe it right down to its most minute details. And then you write it down. I mean, big step, writing down the goal, so to speak, writing down the end result. I'm a big believer in writing these things down for 3 very good reasons. Number one, so you don't forget. I mean, that's one of those things that sound, I call it things that sound dumb but are true. Everybody always says, well, I won't forget. It's real important to me. Yeah, well, it's like, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the idea that's going to make you $10 million. You go right back to sleep. You wake up at 7 and you forgot it. So, right? So you write it down so you won't forget. Number 2, writing down a goal is the first step to actually achieving it. I mean, let's face it, what we're talking about here is something that could take you 2, 3, 5, 10 years of time, energy, and effort to achieve, especially in business. So if you're not willing to take 5 minutes to write it down, what makes you think you're willing to take years of time, energy, and effort and hard work to achieve it? Third thing is it makes you accountable. When you write these things down, it makes you accountable. And that's a big thing, accountability. So now you want to write down the goal. Now, to me, there are 3 components of a good, effective, written goal. Number 1 is it has to be specific. You can't write down next year we want to do more business. Next year we want to grow this company, and next year people come up with too many vague goals. And it's like somebody says to me, I want to make more money, and I gave them a nickel. Well, that's more than you had before this conversation started, but I don't think that's what you meant. Or if somebody says, I want to get a better job, I want to live in a nice... What does that mean? I want to live in a nicer house, I want a better job. It doesn't mean anything. How do you formulate a plan to get more? How do you formulate a plan to earn a lot? There's no such thing. It's too vague, and too many people, too many companies have vague goals. So you want to be specific. Number 2, you want to use time frames. In other words, we want to increase our sales by 30% within 1 year. We want to increase our sales by 30% within 2 years. Time frames are important because time frames, give you an incentive. If you don't know when you have to end, if you don't know when it ends, there's no incentive to start. Too many people talk in terms of the word sometimes, which is a very vague statement. I mean, a goal is a dream with a deadline. If you were in sales, Anita, and you wanted to sell me something, and you called me up and you said, Warren, can I come over and see you sometime? And I said yes and hung up.
Right.
When would you
I wouldn't
come
get
over?
I wouldn't get that.
No, exactly. It's like it's like if you ask your kids, when are you going to get your homework done? When are you going to take out the garbage? When are you going to do your chores? And they always say, yeah, don't worry, Mom, don't worry, Dad, I'll get around to it sometime. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you it's never going to happen. So when people use that word sometime, even though it has the word time in it, it really means never. And so you want to put a time frame on everything you do. You want to have a time frame. You need deadlines. They're important. And the third thing is place no limits on your company's ability to achieve. If it's what you really want, write it down. Do not place any glass ceilings over your head. Do not place, as soon as you qualify a goal, as soon as you say, well, we really need to increase our sales by 30%, but I don't think we can, so we'll settle for 20%. As soon as you say we'll settle for, that's as far as you're going, because that's as far as you believe you can ever go. I mean, if you say I want 30% increase, but I don't think we can get it, so we'll settle for 20, well, you're never going to get 30. The best you can ever do is 20. And a lot of this is, and I'm going to say something that I know a lot of people argue with all the time, but I'm going to say it right now. I really hate when people say set realistic goals. If it's what you really want, put it down. If it's what you really believe you can do, put it down. I don't like when people say realistic goals because I really believe they use the word realistic as a code word, which really means low. In other words, people say make your goals realistic. In other words, set your goals low enough so that you can't fail. Well, then the question becomes this. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to succeed or not fail?
Right. So in other words, reach. Okay. Well, we're going to take another break. We will be back very shortly with more from Warren Greshus about how to have the best sales year ever. Warren has a lot more to share. So we'll be right back. I'm Anita Campbell.
Talk to me.
Welcome back to Small Business Trends Radio with your host, Anita Campbell.
My guest today is Warren Greshus, and Warren is describing for us how to create our highest sales year ever. Now, Warren, so far you've outlined 2 of the 5 steps for creating our best sales year ever. Number 1 was visualize how much more in sales you want next year and where you want to end up with your sales. And number 2 was then write down very specific goals and goals that make you reach. Now, number 3, I believe you mentioned, was create a roadmap. So how do we create a roadmap to get to those higher sales?
Okay. Now you've got the goals. Now you've got to create an action plan for those goals. And again, I use a 3-step process for the action plan, just like with the goals. Number 1 is to express your plan in continuous action. Number 2 is to break the plan down into accomplishable steps. And number 3 is to give yourself the ability to measure your progress every step of the way. And I think that's very key.
Okay, and now your first one, you got me intrigued. Continuous action, express it in continuous action. What does that mean?
Continuous action, okay? In other words, what does your sales force, what does your company have to do on either a monthly, weekly, or daily basis to get to that plan? In other words, if you recall last year when we had this discussion, we talked about an activity plan.
Yes.
We talked about formulating an activity plan and knowing what you, as an individual salesperson, knowing what you have to do every single day. How many times you physically had to dial the phone in order to get an appointment? How many appointments you need to get to get the sale? How many visits you needed? How many people you actually had to speak to get an appointment on the phone? So, and that's continuous action. I mean, knowing how many salespeople, where your salespeople have to be every single day, how many appointments they're going to need to go out on, knowing how many clients you're going to get, how much each individual sale should bring in on the average, to really break it down to as small a number as possible. When I talk about continuous action, you know that your sales force has to be out there every day. How many people do they need to see? How many clients do they need to bring in? What is that? How does that break down into appointments? I mean, I've worked with companies that literally tell their salespeople, you must have 14 appointments a week, and that's continuous action. And if they're out there doing something every single day or knowing what they have to do every single week, to break it down into as small a routine as possible, whether it be monthly, if that's as small as you can get, or weekly, or even daily would be best.
And you've hit on a pet peeve of mine when I talk with companies who have rather what I would call vague goals, and really don't break it down into what they need to do each week and each month to achieve those goals. Because if you don't have a handle on what you need to do each week and whether you can achieve it, I can see exactly what you're saying. You won't achieve it.
You end up nowhere, and that's why you hear so many companies who are so dependent on the fourth quarter, because they've spent the first 3 quarters of the year in outer space, in vagueness. And all of a sudden, they have to ramp up in the fourth quarter because they realize they're 50% off of their goal. I'm always amused by the companies that say, well, don't worry about us. We're a great December company. Yeah, because you didn't wake up till Thanksgiving.
Right.
You know, I'd rather be able to take it easy in December, if you want to know the truth, without having to put all that pressure on myself.
That's a good point. All right, your second point for achieving your roadmap. How do you create
Break
your roadmap?
It down into accomplishable steps. Okay, now when you develop a plan, you know, one of the toughest parts of the plan will get, and you know, we talked about the fourth step being action, but one of the toughest parts of the plan is to get people to take that first step. You know, is to take, you know, everybody always says the toughest step of any journey is the first step. Well, if the toughest step to take is the first step, why do so many people insist on making it the hardest to accomplish? My feeling is this: when you formulate an action plan for a goal, make the first few steps of the plan the easiest ones to accomplish. Because the whole point of the first few steps of the plan is not to make any great achievements, but to get you started in the habit of accomplishment, to get you going. If we make the first few steps of the plan really easy to accomplish, really easy to implement, then you have no excuse not to do it. I want you taking that first step. I want to make that first step so easy that you have no excuse not to do it. So you'll take that first step, you'll achieve it because it's easy to achieve. You'll say, hey, that wasn't so hard. And once you say, hey, that wasn't so hard, or hey, that wasn't so bad, now what are you going to do? Well, you're going to keep going. And that's the whole point. What can you do with your plan that's going to give you and everybody else that works for you the incentive to keep going? And if we make those first few steps easy and we get people in the habit of accomplishing and doing things and accomplishing these small goals, because what a plan is really the taking of the big goal and breaking it down into smaller, easier to swallow bites. You know, in other words, if you just had the goal, let's say that goal is a year off, and all you have is the goal and no plan, and you wake up every day and all you've given yourself to focus on is that end result. Well, every day that you're not there, even though you're not supposed to be, you know, because logic doesn't come into this, every day you focus in on that end result and you're not there yet, you're going to start to get more and more frustrated. And as you get more and more frustrated, eventually you'll give up. But when you have the plan and you break it down into smaller, easier to accomplish steps, all you have to focus on every day is the next step. You don't have to focus on the end result anymore. You just have to focus on the next step. So you focus on that next step, you go out, you do what you achieve, you just go, not so bad. Now I go up to the next step and the next step. And now I'm starting to build confidence because I'm accomplishing things every day, every week, and every month. And the only time I ever have to focus on that end result is when that becomes the next step. And so, see, it's the plan that keeps the motivation going every day by allowing you to achieve on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So that's why I say break it down to accomplishable steps. It's like if you have somebody that's new working for you, give them tasks that you know they can achieve, just to build up their confidence level, and also to see how much they can handle. And then, as they start to achieve the easy ones, build it up a little more and a little tougher, and make the degree of difficulty a little tougher, because they'll be building confidence, and they can do more and more as time goes on. Do the same thing. That's what I mean, accomplishable steps. Give yourself the ability to succeed.
Okay. Is there anything else as far as creating the roadmap?
Well, you know, you want to be able to give yourself the ability to measure your progress.
Okay, and how do you do that?
Well, you've got to break again. You know, if I want to increase my sales by 30% over the year, then I've got to essentially increase 30% month over month. January to January, you know, February to February, whatever. So my smaller goal is 30% increases by month, or 30% increases by week, or 30% increases by day, whatever that might be. How much business did we do last year at this time, this month? How much, you know, I want to break that down. I give the example of two salespeople, salesperson A and B. Each one has a goal, 144 sales over the course of the next year. Salesperson A, he's a real smart guy. He's got one of these guys that's 10 years experience, but he really has 1 year experience multiplied by 10. And he's one of these guys that tells you, well, I don't need to formulate a plan. I've been 10 years in this industry. I'll just go out there, I'll do it. Salesperson B, she's not quite as confident. She's never done this before. She's never closed 144 sales. She formulates a plan. She says, 144 sales is difficult for me, but I'll break it down, and I realize I don't have to do that. I just have to do 12 a month. Okay, so her goal is 12 a month. His goal is 144. Now, January comes, January goes. Salesperson B, she made 12 sales in January. She says to herself, great, right on target. What's our next goal? 12. See, her goal is 12. Salesperson A, he makes 12 sales in January. You know what he says to himself? Oh, my God, 132 still to go. Somewhere around May, he'll be saying, this goal wasn't very realistic. And by the way, I just want to qualify what I said about setting realistic goals. You know what makes a goal realistic or not realistic? Is if you are willing to do what it takes to achieve it. See, that's why I say don't worry about setting realistic goals in the goal-setting stage. When you when you formulate the plan, that will tell you whether your goal is realistic or not. Shoot for the stars. Formulate the plan, and when you figure out what you're going to have to do to reach the stars, then you're going to tell yourself whether it's realistic or not.
Yes. Now, Warren, I want to make sure we get to the other two points in the last, we've got a little less than 4 minutes left here. You had said that step number 4 in all of this is to act.
Right.
Now, that's often a lot easier said than done. What recommendations do you have on how to do that?
My recommendation is don't try to do more than you're capable of in any one day. Okay, my recommendation is I would rather see you do a little bit a lot than a lot a little bit. In other words, so many people formulate these action plans, and I do seminars where I actually have people, audiences walking out of there after sitting with me for half a day or a day with their own beginnings of a 5-year plan, and I tell them, listen, you have to act within 24 hours on a good idea. If you don't, it's dead. But you don't have to do everything about it. People get this feeling, they get all excited about these goals and plans, think they've got to accomplish it all by the next day. No. You just have to take one small action step. Don't try to do too much. Try to take one small action step a day, no matter what it is. I'm not worried about how big or how small the action step is. I'm just worried that you take it. Because if you keep taking a little bit of an action step every single day, you're going to create the habit of action. And the habit of action eventually turns into persistence, because if you do act every single day, day after day, now you're creating persistence. Those people that act every once in a while don't create that habit. Much like exercise, if you only exercise once in a while, you eventually get sick of it, or you start to dread that day that you're going, and you just don't do it anymore. Rather than the people that exercise a little bit every single day, they create that habit of fitness, that create that habit of exercise. So my advice to those people is take that plan and take one small action step every single day and really create the habit of action.
And that habit of action is what will keep us all going and being persistent then, which is really your fifth step in having the best sales year. Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of companies have a great sales year, and they think that that's it. It's over. We did it. We did it. We can now sit back. We can pat ourselves on the back, and we can relax a little bit. But the problem is, what they don't understand is everything that it took for you to get to the top, for you to reach that goal, is all the same things you're going to have to keep doing to stay on top, because it's a lot easier to increase your sales by 30% than to keep increasing your sales. It's a lot easier to have a great year than it is to keep having great years. The really successful companies do not relax, because remember something, as soon as you start setting yourself up as successful in the marketplace, the competition starts to realize that you're there.
Hi, this is Kevin Tony, the marketing coach again. If this CD has inspired you and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I really have to do something to make more money, to increase my sales, I can help you. The first thing you need to do is take this really easy step. Get yourself a free marketing assessment. You need a checkup. You need to find out whether or not you're doing a good job of marketing your company. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go online and I want you to go to marketingcheckup.ca. Okay, that's marketingcheckup.ca. And when you get there, you can give yourself a free marketing assessment so you can get a feel for whether or not you're doing a good job of marketing your company. Now, after you've done that, I'll receive your information and then I will send you an email back with a special offer that I have for you. So take a minute, go online, do your assessment at marketingcheckup.ca. That's marketingcheckup.ca. You can get yourself a free marketing assessment so you can know whether or not you're doing a good job of marketing your company. All right? Have yourself a good afternoon. Bye for now.